Mike Greenberg, who hosts Get Up and Greeny here, 10 to noon each and every day. He joins us right now on the CarX Tire and Auto Hotline. And Greeny, first of all, it was a great shout out that LeBron gave to you the other day. And like you said, your genius is never appreciated. But with that being said, from a man with smarts like you have, how are you so damn stubborn to not realize that Caleb Williams is going -- 1?
It does appear that way. Hi, guys. Look, when you texted me the other day about that dinner that took place, that was the first I had heard about it. Now, of course, it's been widely reported, but you guys had it before anybody else. My sense of this is that there might still be somewhere along the line a little moment of drama. The Bears have made up their minds, clearly. That's no mystery, that that's the guy that they want. And I think Caleb Williams, from as best I can figure it out from a distance, has made up his mind that he will that he's not going to try and keep it from happening. I think if you gave him truth serum and you asked him what would be your first choice, I don't think that would be his first choice. But I think that he and his team have recognized that the trouble that it will cause to try and go in a different direction, to try and force this to go in a different direction, might not be worth the squeeze. Look, the Bears, and this has been talked about endlessly. You guys know it 100 times better than anybody that I'm talking to most mornings. The Bears have a roster that this quarterback is going to walk into that might be the best that any first overall pick has ever had. So I can see where, while I think he has had his heart set on going to Washington from the beginning, that reasonable minds have convinced him, and maybe he himself has realized, I have a chance to show up there and win quickly, and maybe that's more important than anything else. So, yes, the Bears clearly are going to make him the first pick in the draft, and I do believe at this point that he will come and all will be well, and I think it has a chance to turn out extraordinarily well.
Why do you believe that, there's still a part of him? Or is it something that you know and everything that you just said about the Bears? Why would he want to go to Washington over the Bears?
Well, I don't know if it's the draw of his hometown. That is where he's from, and that might be part of it. But those whispers are still out there. I mean, you guys hear them. And I'm not reporting anything. Let me be very, very, very clear.
Because we have not heard them, Greeny. We have not heard them.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, well, I have. I've heard them a lot, and that from the beginning, that more at the beginning than lately, that this was not his first choice. But to the point that you were making, I've heard it a lot less lately. And I think it's probably worth just burying at this point. I mean, to the point you're making, I don't think anything is going to happen. I think that night he's going to get up there and he's going to put on a Bears hat and he's going to smile and he's going to be excited. He's going to show up at Hallis Hall the next day and let the future begin. And hopefully it'll go extraordinarily well. And I think that the potential upside of this is endless. I mean, off the charts. And quickly, I think the Bears could turn things around on a literal dime.
Yeah.
So I understand. I understand why you're asking me about it, and I understand why Bears fans might be feeling funky about it because I'm telling you that there are still some of those whispers out there, but they're much, much, much quieter than they have been at any point in the last few months.
And Greeny, you would know as well as we do because of how long you were here. The quarterback that finally breaks through in a Bears uniform and becomes that guy that throws for more than 4,000 yards or throws for more than 30 touchdowns or proves to be the first real, true franchise caliber quarterback is going to be second in popularity in this town to just one person, and that's Michael Jordan. And I would think that somebody is hammering that over and over. And maybe they don't have to anymore, but I would think that somebody would have gotten that message to Caleb Williams and his crew very early. Yeah,
look, I have been there long enough and to know that, like, the most popular people in Chicago remain the 85 Bears. And impossible to believe, but that's almost 40 years ago.
Crazy.
So yes, it's all going to go extraordinarily well. I mean, we should bury it. I didn't mean. Well, you brought it up, so I guess it's not my fault that it came up. I mean, I think we should be moving on to that. Yes, I think. Look, if Caleb Williams, no rookie quarterbacks walks into the NFL without some flaws and without some work to do. I think he is an imperfect product. I think. Let me ask you guys this, because I sit there every single day. And all I do is compile other people's opinions, okay? I am not a draft analyst. I did not go to the pro day of Caleb Williams or of Jaden Daniels or of Drake May or of anybody else. I've never watched the ball come out of their hands. I've never sat in a room and talked with them. I feel as though there is an increasing feeling amongst a lot of the draft analysts whose opinions I value that they believe that Jaden Daniels is the cleaner prospect. Now, that does not change the fact that it's only one person's decision. This is not a decision that winds up getting made by consensus. It gets made by one person or one organization, and I believe that organization has made that decision, and you guys know that better than I do. But that is the feeling I get, and I wonder if that feeling has permeated the conversations you guys have had as you've been leading up to this with all the people you talk to around the country.
I don't think we've had many conversations that was the tenor of them. When you say that, though, Greeny, when you say that there are some, and I know that Orlovsky has felt that way, and I know that Lewis has felt that way, do you get the impression that they're talking strictly on the field, or it's all encompassing how they approach the game and his group wanting to be wherever they go? I mean, is it something that's just football related, or it's something that includes a lot of stuff?
Yes, very much so. And I think that's just one of the factors here. And the other factor in it is, Caleb, as spectacularly talented as he is, and as special as some of the special moments look, his propensity to turn the ball over is a concern, and I know there are people who have it. But look, I think if all 32 teams right now had the opportunity to take the first pick, I think Caleb would go first more times than anybody else. I just don't think it would be unanimous. I also don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that Jaden Daniels doesn't even go second. I think there's a real chance when it's all on that Drake May winds up going. So there's going to be so much intrigue that night. I really, really, really hope none of these trades that are going to take place happen until we get on the clock, very selfishly, because I'm really looking forward to that. I think this is going to be one of the most intriguing and dramatic first rounds that we've had in the draft in a very long time, since long before I became directly involved.
Yeah, the one thing that look, Greeny, we get calls and we've poked fun and we've said, are you guys putting that stuff out there because you want to create more hype and more drama for the number one pick? Do you really believe that there's that drama for number one? Or
No.
No. So you guys really believe that there is a truly, like, I understand that Lewis has a great reputation. We put him on a ton. But, like, do you guys put some of the this isn't manufactured stuff?
No, I don't think there is any drama, it was what I meant no to. I think it is clear that Caleb is going to go number one. I don't think there's any – I think there's almost no doubt about that. So I'm not trying to manufacture any question that that's what's going to happen. I think the intrigue starts maybe at number two, in a huge way at 3, 4, and 5. I think there's a really good chance that we see trades up. There's at least some chance we see a trade up at 3, and I think there's almost a certainty that we'll see at least one trade up between 4 and 5. So that's what I mean when I say intrigue and trades at the top. Not at number one. No, the Bears, look, the Bears made what I think was a fascinating decision. I was very, very impressed, by the way. I was away when the Justin Fields thing happened. And I don't know what you guys thought, and I don't know what the general feeling of your callers was and what the general feeling in town was. I miss having that finger on the pulse of just exactly what the fans are largely thinking. But I'm a big believer that what goes around comes around. I thought the Bears did Justin a solid, and I thought that was well handled by them. I don't know. You guys would know better than I would. I feel like they probably could have gotten more for him if they had held out and waited. But I think they wanted to do right by him, and I think they did so. So I emerged from that with a very good feeling. Further, I think you don't make that decision that they made unless you are convicted in the direction you are going. So I don't think there's been any question in the Bears' minds what they want to do and who they want to do it with for quite some time. So what Louis Riddick thinks or Dan Orlovsky thinks or Mel thinks or Booger thinks or anybody else thinks doesn't make any difference. So I don't think there's any intrigue. I mean, unless something happens between now and then from Caleb's camp, which, again, I think is decreasingly likely, down to something like a 2% chance, then I think that the intrigue starts at number 2. I think clearly the Bears are going to take him at number 1.
Greeny, do you believe they made a mistake by not going forward with Justin and then ultimately trading that first overall pick?
I don't know. No, I think I don't. I think that if they're convicted about it, like I just look what the Houston Texans have been able to do this offseason, like that could be the Bears next year. Like the Bears, and they already have an infinitely better roster right now than the Texans had at this time last year. But if I think the Bears have a really good to win games and they lose this year and make the playoffs. If whoever the quarterback is, let's just assume that it's going to be Caleb Williams. I think they have a chance to make the playoffs this year. But when you then have another, at minimum, 2 off seasons, if not 3 off seasons, before you have to pay the quarterback, then the roster flexibility that gives you is so enticing that I can see why you wouldn't pass it up. Justin Fields, I believe in him. You guys know that. We've had this conversation a million times. I still think he has a chance to be a good player, but I certainly couldn't prove it in a court of law. I don't know it for a certainty, and they know infinitely better than I do everything about him, having been with him now, this group having been with him for the last 2 years. So I can't sit here and say it's a mistake. I also think having that 9th pick is such a wonderful luxury that your entire, the top of this draft will not just be the quarterback. You're getting another potential impact player right there, depending on how they choose to play that. And if they wind up with a receiver like Rome Odunze, or even if they wind up trading back a little bit, if someone is desperate to come up there and you get a few good players in there, I can't sit here and say the Bears got it wrong. What was, and I don't mean to make you go over ground that by the standards of your show is now several weeks old. But if you could, generally, what was the reaction in town?
On Fields?
Yeah.
I think personally there's a group that is very loyal to him. And listen, I would start by saying, Greeny, we've all had tremendous respect for Justin Fields, the leader, the teammate, how hard he works. He was not just a good Bear, but he was been a good citizen of Chicago. I think everyone has a lot of great things to say, but the quarterback play just wasn't good enough consistently enough. And I do believe that the vast majority of Bear fans were okay moving on. But there is a smaller group that is very vocal and very willing to let you know how they feel, that believe the Bears made a huge mistake and they should have stayed with Justin.
Or that they thought that they sold low, but like the analogy I made, Greeny, was, look, you lost on this single stock. You took a loss on the stock, but you're hoping that your entire portfolio takes a major jump forward. You know what I mean? That your team,
Sure.
you're investing in your team and the greater picture in Caleb Williams in the growth there. So, okay, no one's going to remember this Justin Fields trade if Caleb Williams hits. Right. If Caleb Williams fails, then it's all going off the rails anyway. And so what you got for Justin Fields, I don't think is going to matter in the grand scheme of things.
I think that's exactly right. And like I had some house guests who are die-hard Bears fans the weekend after it happened, and that I would say their perspective, which is sort of where I've gotten mine from, was he said to me directly, I will root for Justin Fields for the rest of his career, but I think the Bears did the right thing.
Yes, yeah.
And that's sort of the reaction I took from it.
All right, so the man that you, I believe, still call boss, Jeff Joniak, would not answer this question. We stumped him. He is really confused at 9, and you led us there. We're talking to Greeny, Mike Greenberg, Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000. He's got draft coverage on ESPN coming up in less than 3 weeks now, 3 weeks from yesterday. So at 9, let me give you this scenario. Odunze is still on the board. You have your choice of any edge rusher. So Dallas Turner's still on the board. Or someone is calling you and they want 9, and you can trade back and replenish some draft capital as well. What of the 3 choices are you choosing?
Well, so you know that the needs of this roster better than I do. I think Rome Odunze has a chance to be an outstanding player. The comp everyone keeps making for him is Terrell Owens, physically. So that's pretty good. So I would have a very hard time passing on him, especially the opportunity if you've just drafted a young quarterback to pair him with Caleb. If what you want is an edge rusher, then I would trade back because there are a few of them. The first edge rusher in this class is going to be Dallas Turner. The kid from UCLA, Leatu Latu, I have a lot of people tell me they think is actually a better player. He's just a little bit of a higher injury risk because of some of the injury history. There are a few good edge rushers. If what I felt was what I want, the need I want to address here is edge rusher at that point, and I had good offers, I would trade back. If I were taking a receiver, and there are a lot of good ones too. I mean, there are a lot of really good receivers that are going to go much later in the round. We're talking about 7 first-round wide receivers. So you probably could trade back either way. I definitely don't think I would take the edge rusher at number 9. I would take Odunze or I would trade back.
Okay. All right. I like that.
Is that Jets team going to get an AARP bulk discount with after all of the signings they've made? I actually like what they've done because I think that they have told you they're all in. How do you feel about your favorite team and what they've done?
They had no choice. I mean, they've done the right thing because they are in such a bad situation. Right. Look, I mean, everyone in the world is taking shots at Aaron Rodgers now, which the only good news about that is we know he doesn't take shots, so it's not going to bother him.
Well played.
But the truth is there is still at least some reason to hope that he plays great. And if he plays great, and if some of these older injury-prone players stay relatively healthy, then the Jets should be a really good team. The problem is those are huge ifs. Like, every team has some ifs, but those are enormous ifs. So if you had to bet on it, you would probably bet that it's going to be an abject disaster. But there is at least some chance of catching lightning in a bottle. And the short answer to your question is I think they have handled their offseason the way they had to under the circumstances.
Before we let you go, for those who missed it, can you tell the story of the doctor's office and the nurse or doctor who confused you and Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah. So she. It turns out she's a receptionist. She is like not a receptionist, but she's neither a doctor nor a nurse. She had a different title. It just jumped out of my head what it was. But anyway, so I go to the doctor's office. I'm in this little room, and this woman comes in and she takes my vitals and whatever it is, and I tell her that I'm there because my throat is bothering me, and it is probably vocal strain, which I have had before. And she says, well, usually that's the recipe for that is just pure vocal rest. And I said, unfortunately for me, that's just not an option. I'm a broadcaster. And she said, oh, where do you work? And I said, I work at ESPN. And she got very excited. And she said, oh, my goodness, I don't watch any sports, but my husband is a huge ESPN fan. Would he know you? And I said, well, he might. I host the show that's on in the morning. And she said, okay. And she left the room. And about a minute later, she came back in, and she said, I just called my husband. Are you Stephen A. Smith? And I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I was just I don't know why I thought it would be funny, because in retrospect, like, the only person in the room who knew I wasn't was me. But I said, yes, I am. And
Yes, I am.
that was a really dumb thing to do, because I'm in a doctor's office.
Didn't she
and
see
I've
your
now
chart?
given them, so I don't know how that broke down, but at that point, she may have looked at my chart like at the beginning, like when I first arrived, but didn't pay much attention to it. I really can't explain to you how this happened, but that's what she said, and that's what I said, and as a result, I realized I now have two choices. I can either say, I just lied to you